Blue, green, red. All right, so for 8.1, we are going to talk briefly about percent, briefly about sales tax, and then focus a bit of time on income tax, because you're probably not familiar with how that works, so we'll do that. But one of the things that it's kind of nice in this section to understand is that, here's an example. This is an old example, but, a lot of politicians try to spin things a certain way. Okay? So, here's a good example. So let's say something is currently taxed at 3%, and they say, oh, now there's a 67% increase. I don't think that means that taxes are now 70%. Do you guys understand that? What they mean is that the increase was 67%, which in this case would actually be a 2% increase. So now instead of 3%, it's 5%. Okay? And so that's something you want to be aware of. They'll try to spin this because no one wants to see that. And of course, people that aren't very, for lack of better words, that aren't very educated will look at this and go, oh, well, I'm not going to vote for that candidate because 67% increase, that's way too much. When in reality, it might just be an extra $1 or $2 that you're paying, which maybe you might be okay with, maybe not. But you always need to be aware of what they actually mean here. Okay, so basics of percentages. So let's go here. These should be pretty straightforward. Okay, how do I change a percent into a decimal? Move the dot. Which way? To the left. How many times?
2.
So this would be? This one? This one? And this one? 0.0004. So either you remember that trick of, move the decimal over twice. The other option is you divide by 100. If you're really bad at seeing it, just divide by 100 and there's your answer. Okay? Second thing. So let's rewrite this. How do you solve an equation that looks like this? So this turns into 96, and then divide by 8. You guys are much more comfortable with this now that we're talking numbers, aren't you? Yep. What do we get? 12. Okay. Do we need to do the other ones, or are we good? We're good. Okay. Example 3. When you have a fraction, okay, you can multiply by 100 if you're not sure, or just go the other direction. Here we moved left twice, now we move right twice to get a percentage. So 5/8, okay, that would just be what? If we multiply by 100, what percentage do we end up with? If you don't have calculators out, and you can't do this without a calculator, maybe you should take them out. We get 62.5? Okay. These are pretty easy. It's the same thing. So just figure those out, multiply by 100. You should get 40% here. And this one is 66.6% repeating. Okay. This one is the same thing. This has already done the first step. Okay. This is not hard. Okay, but it is just good to review to make sure everybody is on the same page. Okay, so are there any questions before we get to the stuff that might be a little bit trickier. Okay. So now for the fourth example, for part B anyway, you might have been taught to like write proportions and do these fractions with is and of. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. For me, I always think it's easiest to actually not do that. I always just translate whatever they tell me into an equation and figure it out. So for example, what, that's what I'm looking for, so I'm going to call it x. What does is translate to? Symbolically in math, is an equal sign, right? 5% is written how? 0.05. Of means to multiply. So here I don't have to set up a proportion and then solve it. I just take 0.05 times 500. And what is that? 25. Okay. Why don't you guys try B and C on your own? Do it however you want. If you're comfortable writing an equation and you think, you know what, that's not too bad, it's pretty easy, do it that way. If you'd rather set up a proportion and do it that way, that's fine too. Okay, so just take a minute. All right, Kyle, how do we do B?
What?
How do we do B?
0.31 times x equals 83.7.
That's a great setup. So then what do you do to solve?
Divide by 0.31.
And so what is x?
270.
Good. Did everybody get that?
Yeah.
Cool. What about C? Michael, let's go to your group.
3 equals x times 30.
All right.
-3 divided by 30.
And
X equals 0.1.
so that is the same as
10%.
10%. Very good. So just be careful when they ask for a percentage, make your answer a percentage. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's turn the page. Very good. Let's go on to page 2. All right, so sales tax. Oh, I think the definition is actually on the bottom of the first page, but the sales tax amount is whatever the tax rate is times the cost. Okay? So when you're asked for what is the sales tax, you're looking for a dollar amount. What total tax are you paying? So let's look at example 5. Let's do part A together. One tax rate is 3%, the other is 5%. Obviously, the 5% we're going to pay more. How do I find how much I pay for the 3% tax rate? How would I do that? 0.03 times. Not yet, yeah. So we want to first multiply it with the total. And yeah, then the other one is 0.05 times the total. And this is all they want. So 3% of 1025 is what? 3075. Okay, and this one should be a little more. What's this one? $51.25. Okie dokie. Why don't you guys try this one on your own? Putting it all together now. So what is the total cost if the sales tax rate is 6.25%? Same product. 1025 is the price. All right. Claire or Jackie? Walk us through what you're doing over there.
So we did 0.0625 times 1025.
Uh-huh.
And we got 64.06.
Okay.
And then we added that to the 1025. And we got 1089.
So 1025, this is the tax amount right here. And your total was 1089.06. Okay. Makes sense? Okay. Let's go on through example 6. I'll quickly get through that. This is the same idea. The only difference is, since I'm not taxing or increasing the price at all, once I figure out what that 15% is, which, by the way, is what? 15% discount, right? Okay, so that's a pretty heavy discount, almost about 150 bucks, okay? So that's the discount. The sales price then would now be, and you're getting that by 1025 minus the discount, right? Very good. So 871.25. So there's the sales price, there's the discount. Okay, and then the final thing we want to end with is just kind of think about what this is saying and why this is important. So let's say currently we're looking at this sales price right here. And the question is, what would the price be if it were discounted 15%, which we already did, that's right here, but now 15% of the new price were added. Well, now I got to take 15% of this new sale price and help me out. 130.69. So now if I take those two and add them up, what do we get? 1,001.94. Okay. So look, the important thing, because you might be asked, if I knock something 15% off and then increase that price by 15%, where should you be? A lot of people might say, well, you should be right back where you started, right? But that's not how it works. Because if your current price is 87.25 and you're doing that times 0.15, then that increase is not quite as much as the discount was to begin with. Does that make sense? So just keep that. That's what they're saying down here at the end. Be careful when you hear percents. That's pretty much it for today. All right. Any questions?